Greetings of peace and good morning, my dear friends. Today, in this philosophical investigation, I, Brother Sting, will discuss about Ludwig Wittgenstein, an analytic philosopher, considered by some to be the greatest philosopher in 20th century. Ludwig Wittgenstein played a central, if controversial, role in 20th century analytic philosophy. He continues to influence current philosophical thoughts, topics, diverse about logic and language, perception and intention, especially ethics and religion, aesthetics and culture. Now we tackle about his philosophical investigation. What is philosophical investigation with Wittgenstein? It was published in the 1953. Wittgenstein mostly recognized in this book, who took more revolutionary step in critiquing all of traditional philosophy. The nature of his new philosophy is heralded as an anti-traditional problems. In the preface to Philosophical Investigation, Wittgenstein states that his new thoughts will be better understood by contrast with the new insights, can be understood as a primarily exposing fallacies in the traditional way of thinking about language through intently and perhaps mainly philosophy. He begins the philosophical investigation. You can see the preface, or there's a quote from St. Augustine's Confessions, that this picture of language cannot be relied on as a basis for a metaphysical, epistemic, or linguistic speculation. Furthermore, philosophical investigation proceeds to offer the new way of looking language, which will yield the view of philosophy as therapy. Of course, that's the goal of his work, to be the therapy in philosophy, especially in communication. In the philosophical investigation, particularly we will discuss about the section 243 until 304, and stated that that says, take note for that the section 243 and 304 about the private language, that says about private experiences, or we call it private language, in the section 243. The words of this language are to refer to what only the speaker can know, to his immediate private sensation. So another person cannot understand the language. Of course, it is your private meaning, it's your, you know it. So maybe people who doesn't know the meaning of your idea, of course, know the meaning. For Wittgenstein, in mind, is a language conceived as a necessarily comprehensible only to its single originator, because the things which define its vocabulary are necessarily inaccessible. And now, for my view in this philosophical investigation, in my own understanding as my intellectual capacity, in this section, Wittgenstein is just saying that words are connected with the primitive, the natural expression of the sensation and used in their place. In this private language of Wittgenstein, he believes that it is a use of a word in a language game, or a context. It's about a context in a language game, roughly corresponding to a context that determines the meaning of such word. And what is language game? What's language game? It's a playing a game, it's a basketball, badminton, it's a chess game, or computer games. Language game is This, this is one of the famous of Ludwig Wittgenstein, the language game. Highlights the part that the activity of speaking a language, like a game or like an activity of playing a game, is governed by rules that are conventional and public. Being conventional, there are rules, results of human agreement, like the rules of the games that we play. The rules of language games are just instituted by humans. That language game, of course, there's a rules. This means that the words do not have meanings other than the uses that we make of them according to the rules that we have instituted. And example of that, I'm walking in the street. I saw a bunch of children or street children. They are sharing their thoughts, storytelling, and then that they're talking about their language. They use their vernacular language, their own language, so they understand each other. That time, you can understand if you know the rules of the language or if you know the meaning of the language. As regards mental terms, we normally believe that the meaning of such expression are the mental state that they refer to. For instance, the meaning of the word headache or brain cramps, or in particular pain. The meaning of the word brain cramps, sige, pain that we feel in our head, pain that we feel in our head. Only the individual who experiencing the pain, brain cramps, knows the meaning. That is why it is private. That my pain I experience is different of yours. That is why you will not know the meaning of the pain, what I experience, because what I experience in that meaning of pain, you don't know the meaning of pain. If I said, I am in headache, I have a brain cramps, I have headache, it's very painful, you will not know the meaning of my pain because you don't experience the pain that I experience. But mental state are private. Mental state are private in that only the person who has certain mental states can directly know these mental states. Other people can only infer that he or she has a state from his or her behavior and verbal report. That's why, yes, they will know that you have pain because of your actions. But the meaning of pain, they will not know the meaning of pain that you experience. Because you only know the meaning of pain that you experience because you're the one who experiencing it. Okay? The people will just see what is happening to you, to them, because they will just see. They will just see what, example, your headache, of course. You act. If you have a headache, you act. Because, remember, to see is not to know. So if the meaning of a mental state that is by nature private, the meaning is private. The meaning of the mental expression should have been private as well. Should be understandable only by the person who uses such expression. But this is not easy for we understand. This can only mean for Wittgenstein. To conclude this language game, Wittgenstein said that the meaning of terms is determined solely by the rules of the language game in which such terms and use. Now, the third topic, we now go to Ludwig Wittgenstein ethics, about his ethics. We how can we relate the private language to his ethical problem, ethical theory, his private language in this section, the section 243 to 304. How can we relate it to the ethics, to the ethical problem? Now, in this ethical problem, his various remarks, ethics have a particular point of view, and Wittgenstein often spoke of ethics and religion together. Ethics and religion. Now, this point of view or attitude can be seen in the four main themes. The true Wittgenstein writings on ethics, that goodness, value or meaning, living the right way involves acceptance of agreement with the world, or life, or God's will, or fate. One who lives this way will see the world as a miracle. There is no answer to the problem of life. The solution is the disappearance or the disappearance of the problem. That for Wittgenstein's writings on ethics, the goodness, the value of meaning. Of course, if it's meaningful, the language is meaningful, the communication is good. In his ethical theory, certainly Wittgenstein worried about being morally good or evil, or even perfect. That ethics have a tendency of all men who ever tried to write or talk ethics was to run against the boundaries of language. That is to talk or write nonsense. This gives support to the view that Wittgenstein believed in the mystical truth. He believed in mystical truth, Wittgenstein. That somehow cannot be expressed cannot be expressed meaningfully. It is, we call it mysterious reality, so to speak, mysterious reality. But cannot be expressed meaningfully, but that are of the most importance. Though it is hard to convince what these truths might be. That is why it is private language, because there is a own meaning of the individual. That's why, example, private, I have a meaning about this thing, about this coffee, about this books. My own meaning about many things. Yes, it is a mug, but I have own meaning about this mug. Example, I will call it a watch. This is a watch. That's my private language. So, it's good as long you understand. It is good as long as you understand this ethical problem. His ethical attitude and integral part of his method, and shows it himself as such that the rules of life dressed up in pictures, and these pictures can only serve to describe what we are to do, not justify, because they could provide a justification only if they held good in other respects as well. So, of course, that, as I said, if it is meaningful, it is good. Now, ethics problem. In Ludwig Wittgenstein ethical problem, its normative sentences are meaningless. That good or bad will can only change the boundaries of the world, not the facts, not what can be expressed by language. And the solution is this. Also, in every other possible world, the absolutely good or evil would be good or evil. Therefore, we cannot talk sensibly about the ethical. Again, the good or bad will can only change the boundaries of the world, not the facts, not what can be expressed by language. Also in every other possible world, the absolutely good or evil will be good or evil. Therefore, we cannot talk sensibly about the ethical. Therefore, private language will be connected because we cannot talk about if it's not unethical or it's ethical. But good, evil, we just it is not meaningful. Now, to conclude Ludwig Wittgenstein ethical views in his philosophical investigation, conclusion that he describes ethics in a way that is very similar to his description of logic. In addition to that, he thinks that ethics shows up as a conditioned description of the world tied to the life of the subject, but does not provide us with any concrete description of the form of ethical normativity. Philosophical investigation and provides, the PI provides us with a context in which to place Wittgenstein a specific description of ethical language used, but they do not help us elucidate the characteristic of ethics in Wittgenstein. Yes, they help ethical language use, but it is ambiguity. There's ambiguity. There's no clear cut about it's so ethics, the characteristic of ethics of Wittgenstein. Then that in language game, it encompasses an ethical domain being expressed in a various types of sentences, such moral judgments, especially imperative and phrases, and being shared in activity by a human life. Now, the real question is, how can we apply this language, how can this ethical experience of Ludwig Wittgenstein, how can we apply it in our contemporary world, in this world? How can we understand this, how can it be useful in the context of this new world? Now, in the world today, this is the ethics. Now, for me, we can use it in the world today, to understand in the world today. We can apply it, Wittgenstein ethical experience in the world today by referring to a set of concrete activities in one's everyday life. For example, in the context of you are in the market and buy in the market, the context of realize the context of this, we can observe, especially in the market, we can observe and realize that the context of language game is we are using it in a particular communication, that you and the seller and you can understand each other. That's why this language game. Example, I'll buy that for my cooking. He understand already. So I'll buy for burger steak. I'll buy burger steak. So he knows the cut. He knows the meaning of that in that particular word that you said to the seller, because he or she knows your language rules, the meaning, the communication. That's why communication is ethical. Seller can understand the meaning. Now, in relation to ethics, we can relate it to the idea of utilitarianism. To gain a meaningful communication, we must use our capacity to analyze or to use your mind. That is the tool or utility, your mind. That is the utility, the tool. We use it. The capacity of thinking. Now, to gain a meaningful and a good meaningful communication. That in this world today, ethical language must always observe in order to have a good and right communication. Being ethical in choosing the right words or language in that particular rule, or to be in the language game, you must know, you must be ethical in the choices of words, ethical in communication, in language. You must have a good or right choices of words in order to have a meaningful communication. Finally, to end Ludwig Wittgenstein philosophical investigation, it simply tells us about that in our communication, we must be ethical. We must be ethical in our communication and the choice of words, the right and good choices of language to have a meaningful communication. That is simply tells of Ludwig Wittgenstein in this philosophical, particularly in that section about the private language. We must be good, choose right, choose ethics, choose good to have a meaningful communication. And lastly, the only meaningful attitude towards the real of the unsayable is silence. As Ludwig Wittgenstein says, what we cannot speak about, we must pass over in silence. What we cannot speak about, we must pass over in silence. This is philosophical investigation. Hear me, brothers, think. Whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent. Thank you very much, and good night.